patrons and Discord community folks, this will be a more efficient version of how to set your chart like mine, my typical way of doing it. So first off, the indicator tab is up at the top here. If you have a fully expanded version, it says indicators completely, but if you're using your phone or not an entire full screen, or do something else that makes the screen not full, like press your quick list, it'll get rid of the word indicators, and it'll just have like the math function sign. So that's where it's located. It's the FX sign. There we go. And so that you start there. For dark theme, you can either right click and hit settings, or you can hit the settings button up here and go to appearance and click black or mostly black, something like that. So white appearance, I really suggest not trading on that. It's just an eyesore. So something a little darker. I choose the second to darkest thing. And then the vertical grid lines, I don't like them completely white. I think it's really annoying to have that. So I have them at maybe the fourth darkest or so, or maybe even the third darkest. How did I have it? Something like that. You can play around with whatever is comfortable for your eyes. The session breaks, I can't even remember what that. Oh no, I have that. I have that unclicked. So the watermark, all that means is it shows you that it's BTC. See that? And if you get rid of it, it goes away. See that? And you can choose how bright that is or not. So I choose it not very bright at all, so I can see it, but it's not distracting me from price or whatever else I got going on. All right, so that's dark color theme. Logarithmic, this said, so am I covering this up? Let me put myself here. So log, see where my cursor is? Look, you want log scale, because if you don't, then you can't really see price. I mean, like you just, and then you can't see what's going on down here either back in 2013. So see, this is 2013 way over here. And this is on the weekly scale, so I should be able to get all of Bitcoin history right here so I can see it nicely. See that? See the big difference? So you need it in logarithmic scale. All right, EMAs. So EMAs are my primary indicator that I use, that and RSI. So you click the indicators, and I use two different ones. Or no, I don't. No, I don't. There are two that are very similar is what I meant to say. You can use either one. The 5 exponential and simple, which you'll need to type in the exact same thing, right? So you'll actually need to type the exact same thing. And once you type it and find it the first time, just star it. And whenever you click the FX button, it'll appear here, right? So, but if you haven't started, then you have to type in the exact right thing, because there are probably 50 people who have created exponential moving average things for folks. And, you know, you're going to get lost which one is which. The most convenient one I've found is this one right here. Crown Trading, I guess that's the only one I have starred, it looks like. So so you'll have to actually type in 5 exponential. So see how all these versions are? Pick this one that is made by unknown 𝐿𝐍𝐋 or something like that, 𝐿𝐿𝐍𝐋. And then before you click it, actually star it and then click it, and then you'll have it. So that's that one. And how to use that is right now. So why did it not appear? It's because I oh, that's not even the right one. It's because I hit it. So I'm gonna click it. Now it's here. All right. And then how to set it up like mine is, so you can make it disappear. So you can keep it on there, but get rid of it, you know, by clicking this eyeball button here. You see that? All right. So the way I set this up is I typically don't use the normal moving averages too much, but so you can uncheck these, for typical daily use, so it's not as busy. But I'll show you how I use them for when I do use them. So you have style. So see these two tabs. So style is both the color, how strong and bold it is, and how thick the line is. So if you move it this way, the color gets more opaque, more transparent. Same color, but more transparent, so it blends in with your background of white or black or whatever. So the EMAs, I click full bold and full thickness. And so I do red, yellow, light blue of some sort. Like I don't know which light blue, but whatever. Just pick a light blue. And then I pick purple, kind of a darker purple, so it's not so annoying. Or maybe I do pick that one. Bold. And then I pick orange. Okay, and so see how these are 5 EMAs and below is 5 MAs. Moving averages move more slowly. And I'm not going to go into the definitions of them. This is just how to set up the chart. So I pick the exact same colors, okay? But I set these up in terms of the opaqueness and the line thickness in a totally different way, because I like to be able to see how the interplay between the 10 MA and the 10 EMA and the 21 MA and the 21 EMA sometimes, although I often have these unchecked, because with all these, it just looks busy, right? But anyway, so I drag the opaqueness roughly halfway, maybe to 60%, and I pick thick. Or in the past, which was also helpful, I picked the thinnest line possible. Oh, you can't even see me freaking doing this. The thinnest line possible, and all the way bold. So you can do it that way. That's pretty convenient. Or you can pick about 60% opaqueness and thick, but the same color as above. So the one of MA needs to be the same color as the one of the EMA. So I'll pick yellow here. And I'll either do all the way bold and thin line or about 60% opaqueness and thick. So light blue, purple, oh, I'm pressing buttons. My keyboard's very sensitive, with my fingers just resting on it. All right, so now I have the color set up, but haven't gone to the second tab, inputs. So I do 10, 21, oops, I guess I gotta delete it all. 21, 55, 89, and 200. And for the MAs, I do slightly different numbers for most of them. The 10 and the 10 I keep the same. The next one I have round numbers, 20, 50, 100, and 200. All right. And again, I'm not going to go in how I use them versus each other. But if I just want to check out how the interplay is between the EMAs, the top EMAs and the top MAs, you can, and here's why the opaqueness is very helpful. So here you can see very clearly that the MA crossed the EMA. So this is the EMA, the thick one, and this opaque one is the MA. All right, and typically if that happens on the weekly, spoiler alert, it means bear market likely approaching. Or so even though it crossed here, right, it did cross there. There was a strong reaction up and off, so the cross didn't count. But when the 21 or the 20 MA crosses the 21 EMA, typically that has 100% accuracy of beginning the bear market. All right. Anyway, so I typically on my so again, when you try to go find where this indicator went, they're often up here, or some of them are down here, which you'll see in a minute, like RSI and Stokes. So you can hide your EMAs like that again. And the way I typically have mine is I usually have just all my EMAs on. This is not thick. and it's not bold. Like that, okay? And if you don't, so sometimes I will only use, and especially in a bull market, sometimes the 200 is not greatest to use unless you're on a lower time frame. So if you'll see on the 4 hour, that 200 is very, very useful to have on there because price likes to play with it. But if you're on the weekly or you're not interested in looking at the 4 hour chart and you're mostly playing with the weekly, then you can probably remove it, because on the weekly scale, the 89 and the 200 are only bear market territory. So you can, kind of delete those and only play with 2, and it's much less busy. Okay. All right. So that's how I use those. And a second way I use them is I try to create ribbons, and I set up light green, darker green, a pinkish, light red, dark red, so I can tell when on different time frames when the bulls are in control or the bears are in control. So my long-term time frames, I pick these numbers here. So you can ignore the MAs, but those are the numbers I choose for long-term stuff, which typically only flip on the weekly, during macro movements. But if you go down to the 2 hour and the 4 hour, they change more frequently. They flip. The red is on top. So I have a few of these ribbons set, and you can keep them all over here, different ones. And when you only want to use your standard ones, just click your standard one, which pops up, right? Anyway, so this is my standard one. This is my was the midterm one. So the long-term one is, nope, it's not that one. I got too many. My long-term one is the middle one. So you can see I have like 5 or 4 different EMA sets that I intertwined to try to get a different perspective of the market. So these are my long-term ribbons, and I can make those disappear. And then my midterm ribbons, I have EMAs of 21, 35, 53, 71, 89. Okay, so I don't use the MAs for these. Okay, so I have long-term, midterm, and my super short-term ribbons. I have 6, 9, 13, 17, 21. Okay, and just so you can see what these look like on shorter time frames here. What it does is, I think this is the short time frame I am on that has the 6, the 9, and all that stuff. So I can see when on a short time frame on Bitcoin on the 2 hour. So I'm on the 2 hour time frame when the bulls are losing controls when these contract. And if I see that candles don't close above the top one, it's going to flip. And typically price likes to really move when there's a contraction. So you can see a lot of times as you get these bumps up, it contracts, then flies, or it contracts, falls, contracts, flies, contracts, flies, contracts a little bit, flies. And you can see it even better, like on the 1 hour, they really contract. So you see how it contracts here, and this is a very common play in Bitcoin. It likes to pop up after a contraction on the 1 hour on the short-term time frames. All right, and then the midterm time frames. Yeah, this is my midterm. I can play a lot with the 1 hour. This shows that it just means once it flips, it's often more significant. You can play around with the different terms, but once the midterm flips, it often flips for longer. And then the long-term one, so again, the long-term one, I typically play with like even the 5-minute chart. So even though I recommend against this, what happens is, since those are long-term frames, price actually becomes more like my stochastics, and I'm more looking at just the ribbons themselves, which are more specific to, since it's like 80 and 100 times 5, that's more like the like a 2 hour. So looking at the 5-minute on the long-term ribbons, that's more like looking at candles on the 2 hour or 3 hour or 4 hour, right? Which I do suggest. So this is the only way I use like the smaller time frames, because these ribbons represent a lot more. Anyway, so Bitcoin might be doing what I've suspected it was gonna do. Anyway, I can't get into that. This is a tutorial video, but this is for future Tillians looking at this in the future. It's April 14th, 2021 when the Coinbase ICO was going off, and I've been feeling very bearish, midterm bearish, but price kept saying steady, 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 and then I suspected, well, maybe it'll spike up to 70,000 and then crash right down after the IPO goes, because I've been thinking Bitcoin was only being propped up and not correcting as it pretty much should be, only because Coinbase news that was dragged out a whole month. Anyway, so that's pretty aggressive. But anyway, so I used the 5. So for the longer term time frame, which is this set, I often rely on the 5-minute and the 15-minute, because when they cross, it's often very significant and it stays crossed for quite a while. And you can also see the contraction. So when it contracts, you know that it's either going to drop or it's going to fly up. And it typically doesn't stay contracted very long, as you can see. So it contracts, and you can see the candles get stuck in there, which typically means it's going to fall. But if it contracts, it didn't really get stuck in there, it just fell. That one you didn't have much heads up. Contracts and then flies up. See that? So that's how I use these ribbons. So you can play around with what you use, and then have several different versions, and this is my more normal version here. Okay, so you pretty much just gotta. I don't know if I can rename them or what. I would love to be able to rename this, so I can tell and not just remember. But I remember my normal one's on top, my midterm or on bottom. My midterm's on top, my long term is in the middle, and my really short time frame, I think, is on the bottom. So middle, long, short, normal. That's how I use this. Okay, so that is EMAs and MAs. RSI. So I'll go back here. The indicators is the FX tab. And then this is the exact one I really recommend using. It's made by Crown Crypto. Or crypto-crown, so you have to pick that exact one, and you need to start typing Crown Trading RSI. So if you don't have it started, so Crown and Trading RSI, and then before you click it, I suggest hitting star, then click, then it should show up. Actually, I didn't click it. So, all right. So now this is one of the indicators that shows up at the bottom. It's not up here where my EMAs are. And I'm not going to show you how to use it in this video, but that's, I just keep it there. All right, the next one is stochastics. That'll also be down there as well. So you just type stochastic, start typing it, and then it's the only one that just says stochastic, not stochastics. Okay, and you start, click it, should show up. All right, and if I want to hide them, I just go like that, or if I want to get rid of it, I click the X. Did you see me click the X there? And if I want it back, I will click that. But often I just keep this off unless I want to refer to it, so I have more space up here, because now you can see I have less space on the graph. Less space on the graph when I have all these up. So sometimes I leave it up always, just to look at it on longer time frames. And on these you can move it like this. See how oh wait, you can't see that. On the side here, you can stretch it. I typically like it so the tops hit the top right there, and then you can also move it, drag it, so you can stretch it and drag it. Same with this. You can so I'll put the green, actually the white line maybe close to the middle. You can shrink it, drag it like that, and then you can have it wherever you want. And you can go like this. You can increase it, but instead of doing that, that's kind of, it's not as helpful unless you just set it the first time. But I typically like my RSI a little bigger than my Stokes. But if you want to just blow up, the instead of just dragging this line up to stretch it, the whole thing, you can just double click it like this. So I'm here where my cursor is, double click, pulls up the RSI that's big, and then you just and then to get it back, you just double click again, and it goes back down. And you can do that for anything that's down here. So double click my Stokes, you can stretch them out, this and that, and double click again, and then it's back. Okay, so that's Stokes, star HK. All right, so those are my main ones. Now during bear market type of stuff, I use the accumulation distribution only for the month. Don't try using this It's this one right here. It's accumulation / distribution with absolutely no spaces with markers made by 𝐄𝐍𝐓𝐄𝐑𝐓𝐀. That's the exact one I like to use. Start it, click it, and if you can see how it's useful on the monthly, here is, it doesn't really work on anything else but the monthly. So in Bitcoin, and this is really only useful, after you think the bear market might be ending and turning in, or vice versa. If you're trying to spot the beginning of the bear market, it's the slope. So once this gets a neutral slope, it's probably the bear market coming, and then it's been bear market the whole time since. And right when this got a positive slope, so you can see that it marked the bottom almost perfectly when this finally got a positive slope right there. Even though price was still low and, oh, you can't, dang it. Even though price was very low still, it got a positive slope right there. Right there. That was the first positive slope since way back here. And that got the beginning, or really the bear market wasn't over, but that was the beginning of the end of the bear market, essentially, right? So on the monthly only, I'm up here on the monthly indicator. Okay. And then when it crosses this, when it turns from red to green, means bull market is in full swing. If it has a positive slope and is above. So bull market full swing was around August 2020. Right. So that's how I use that one. So I typically don't have that up unless I'm looking for macro moves like once a year, once every 2 years, something like that. Bollinger Bands, a lot of people, you'll see a lot of YouTubers use these. And then the exact ones that I like to use are Bollinger Bands Fibonacci Ratios by Shizaru. Instead of Bollinger Bands, I like to use my ribbons that I showed you earlier. I just think, yeah, I like my ribbons better. But some people do play the tops of, I think, the daily. Yeah, so a lot of people like to sell when it's been closing above because they think things are getting too hot when it's closing above there. But I can usually tell by the RSI and all that stuff when things are running out of gas here. So I typically don't use these much, but I'm referring to them because a lot of YouTubers will use them. And in case you're interested, because a lot of people use them, you don't have to use exactly what I use. Bollinger Bands are a lot of people's, primary indicator out, instead of RSI, for example. Or even moving averages. Some people use them in place of moving averages. So that's how I use that. Volume profile. I think it's just volume. Nope. It's this one here. So volume profile spelled normally, and it's by 𝐄𝐍𝐓 So click that guy, and you can just see where, during corrections, the way to use this is it's kind of like making your horizontals of support and resistance. So for example, right here where it gets less, you can see it goes down. It's not as filled out. Price will try to gravitate towards those to fill it out so it's all equal. So and so this really supports my theory that Bitcoin in this case needs to come down to correct to this horizontal here, which on the weekly creates a horizontal. So this lines up perfectly with my horizontal. I really think price is going to be attracted to the zone to fill it out, like around 42, 43. I mean, this supports it pretty well, and it's very common. Price doesn't like to build a base on a weak foundation, and right here, this is a weak foundation. But and price really might be gravitating towards 53 and stay above. So if it can build a huge base here, I guess it can ignore this. That sometimes plays out, but in this and you can use these on the shorter term time frames as well. Just a heads up though, it's hard to get the settings right on this. It's really hard to get the settings right. So this one's over here on the side, a lot of settings. These are how I currently have it. So you can look at the settings here. All right, style. I just guess there's not much there on that tab. But these are the inputs I've been using. These are the colors. I don't even know what those do. But if you have these numbers different, they might not show. It might not show up at all for the weekly. So I haven't really been able to figure out how to set it up right for the weekly. Let me get rid of the Bollinger Band. So oh wait, yeah, it is. It's way down here. but it's not sensitive enough, so I don't have much history here. But you got to play with the settings. I'm not an expert on how to set those up. And note here on the right hand side that I'm covering up, if you're using the free version of TradingView, you can only have 3 indicators at a time, so you can't do this method up here. You would just have to enter in, if you want to go from standard to ribbons, you would have to enter it in and just kind of have a, a quick reference of what those numbers were for the midterm, short-term, long-term ribbons, if that's what you wanted to do. And I think that is the conclusion of how I set up my chart. And again, one important thing, you don't have to have the same primary indicators that I use. If you like Bollinger Bands, use Bollinger Bands. It's whatever works with your trading style and how your brain works. So my brain works really well with moving averages, RSI, candlesticks, and stochastics. I rarely go away from those because I think I can see the whole story on price movement with those, a combination of those 4 going back and forth in addition to the different time frames here. So really, one indicator, RSI, has multiple indicators. It has it on 2-hour, 4-hour, daily. Each tells a different story. So don't feel that you have to use the same indicators I do as your primaries, but I want you to, so that's the main point. The second point is don't use too many, because each indicator really is like 4 or 5 indicators, because you have to see the story it tells across different time frames. All right, and you have to look at the story that it tells across different time frames. So that's what I got for you here, and yeah, that's the tutorial. See you later.